Alrighty, so hey guys, this is KMC whatever. I'm Kirsten and welcome back to another video. So happy Mother's Day to all mothers. Today we are going to be making my Mother's Day gift. If you don't know, every single year I like to make a gift for my mom, and every single year it's something new that I'm learning a new skill for. So this year I got a sewing machine for Christmas, and I decided I'm gonna go ahead and sew my mom a patchwork quilt. I haven't sewn for about 15 years, so it's not completely new, but it kind of is new because I haven't done it in so long, and I've also never made a quilt before. Items that I am using is some fabric. I have a colored pencil to mark my stuff. I have a cutter. I have two sizes of measure square thing. I have a cutting board, I have thread, and a sewing machine. So that is everything you're gonna basically need for this project. I'm sure there's other things that may come up that you might need. I'm gonna start by measuring out all of my fabric and start cutting up my little squares. This is my little squares. I have 4 fabrics that I am going to be using. I am going to try to make an 80 by 80 quilt. So I am actually making my squares 5 by 5, so that is what I'm measuring out and cutting. And so by the time they're actually sewn together and stuff, it might be like a 4.5 or a 4 by whatever. But I have a lot of squares to cut out. I have like I think it's like 64 squares per fabrics that I have to cut out. So first step is I'm cutting out all of my fabric to make little patch squares. So I'm gonna show you how I've been measuring out and cutting up my little square patterns. So this is the fabric I am working with right now. Okay, the first thing is you want to kind of lay out your fabric. I'm sure it's all flat as possible. I'm then gonna take my little like measuring square thing. So this is the big one, and I do it upside down, but I'm gonna start by lining up the bottom. I'm gonna start by lining up the bottom. I'm gonna pull it out a little bit away from the edge so that way I can mark where I want it. So I'm doing a 5 by 5, so I'm gonna mark it at 5. Then I'm going to line it up with this side. I'm gonna drag it up a little bit so that way I can mark the bottom down here. So now I'm gonna mark it at 5. Now I'm gonna switch to the smaller one because it's just easier for me to deal with. But now I am going to go ahead and line it up with the top. Can you even see? Okay. Line it up with the top mark as well as the bottom mark, and I'm gonna like make sure it's as straight as I possibly can. And then I'm gonna take my little cutter thing and I'm going to hold this, and I'm gonna push down as hard as I possibly can. And I like to pull it apart just to make sure that it's not connected still. And usually the end is not completely cut, so I'll just cut it myself. And there, now I have 2 squares. So the first thing that I did was I figured out the pattern I wanted it to look like, and I laid it out. So I figured out the math, and I have 16 squares per row, and I have 16 rows. So I organized them based on the pattern I want it to look like, and I organized them and then I stuck them in stacks. So the stacks are all the rows and there's 16 squares in each stack. So that's what I did. Alright, so I made little piles of the different fabrics. So I labeled them all. I have 16. Yeah. Next step will be sewing, and that scares me. That's the scary part. Okay guys, so we have our first square. I am now gonna start sewing, but I need to turn on the machine. But I'm scared. I'm so nervous. But it is sewn. There's our first piece, guys. I'm gonna make sure that I'm lining it up the correct way, so that way it opens correctly. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew this side right here. Alright guys, so I've done 8 squares, which is half of the size of the blanket. Done 8 squares. That's half of it done, completed. I have the other half of this one row to do. I just got done getting all 16 squares sewed together. Did get the rest of row 2 is complete. Alrighty, so last night I did sew 4 rows, and my last row I messed up on. Specifically, the ones you mess up on the most are these ones. I'm kind of doing a pattern where sometimes they're sideways like this, or like this, if you can tell. But then sometimes they're horizontally. So I messed up on these 2 specifically ones, but I went back and looked, and I can totally just shift it down and re-sew the last 4 on. These 2 are sewed together correctly because I had to take off these 2. So now I'm going to sew these back together, and then I'm going to sew them back onto this main strip. So 2 more rows. I've done 5 and 6. So I just got done with 6. 6 is right here. So I'm gonna go place this down to make sure I have it all correct, and I think I do. And then start working on 7. I'm almost to my halfway. I was doing so well, and my dumb ass, this is backwards. I sewed it the wrong direction. So now I gotta rip this up and resew, because this is the colored side, if you could tell, and this is the back. It's like a lot duller color, dull. So here's the seam that I just sewed. So it's backwards. Fun. Great. Love that for us. And I realized that my last row started with the mountain, and the next one after the mountain is the green stripes. Well, for some weird reason, I went with orange, which is the next one after the green stripes. So I'm on the wrong row first off, and that threw this whole thing off, because I first off was already on a wrong row. But then I was like, well, it'll be fine. But then I realized these 2 are, if I do it this way, then these 2 are correct. But this one on the end, the first one, is completely wrong. It should be up and down, not side to side. So I'm gonna have to, after I already picked this because I flipped it wrong, I now have to redo this again. So now I have to take out the thread again and restart it for the second time on this piece alone. So guess I'm gonna go back to my seam ripper, which is this tool. I don't know. You just basically run it under your thread and just it kind of cuts it, and then that lets you peel it apart. But I made a big mistake. Do you see my mistake? So, first off, these two are going the same direction. They should be opposite of each other. Secondly, that's the same problem with this one. They are going the same direction. So, I have to fix these two mistakes on this single row before I can even continue, because if I make any more mistakes on this, I have to restart again. Working on row 11, and I started it, and I have messed it up. All of the green and orange I have to redo because the pattern is wrong. Alright guys, so we are currently in a blizzard. I did get row 13, I just did 13. I have 14, 15, and 16 left, so I have 3 more rows left, and then I start sewing them together. I feel like I'm like really behind on schedule. Bitten off way more than I could chew. While we're in a blizzard, we lost power, so I have 3 squares left to sew, and I can't do that on the very last row of the blanket. So until I get power back, I can't really sew. So I might try to start pinning the pieces to get rows completed. And now we're gonna go ahead and iron the edges down, so that way they will fit together when I sew them together. And I'm gonna start pinning them. Pinning at least the first row, and then maybe I will see about starting sewing the first rows together. This is my only like ironing thing I have, is this Cricut. It's a mini one, but this actually might come out really perfect for this project because they are like tiny squares that I need to iron down. So iron all of the seams down the right direction, and now I pinned all of the seams on one side, and now I'm getting ready to sew this. Okay guys, so I sewed these two together. They are fully together, and it actually turned out not bad. I'm pinning my third row right now, so that is what I'm working on. Alrighty guys, so I've been working on this for quite a while, and I propped you up on the highest thing I got, so I can show you guys the big, do you see it? I don't even know if you guys can see it. I have half the blanket done. Pretty sure this is the batting. I cut this up and got the inside of the quilt basically, and I have pinned it to my original blanket. This is pinned together, and I still need to cut out the backing, which is right here. It's a little hard to deal with it at this point because it's starting to get really big and bulky. Sewed the patterned side as well as like the middle like cloth piece and the backing. I've sewed them all together on all sides, and I cut off all the excess trim. I haven't cut it to the exact thing because I just don't want this to frail or anything like that. Mistake. There is a hole. I do have a hole in the patchwork part that I now have to fix somehow. I don't know how I'm supposed to fix that. Right now I'm getting ready to start sewing like the little fancy stuff, if that makes sense, before I'm gonna do the binding. So that way it's like within the binding. Trying something new, and it did not turn out that great at all. So I am undoing all of the stitching of it, and it is taking me so long to do. Starting to put the binding on. I don't know if I'm actually doing this correctly, but it is seeming to work. It's not perfect. It is sewed on both sides, so I did leave a little extra just to connect the two pieces here. But yeah, I don't think you're supposed to start at the end, but I just kind of did. So just kind of show you, I lined it up, and then I pinned it in down the sides, and then as I go a little at a time, and I try to make sure that this, like, if you can tell, this isn't inside of it. So I'll like make sure that the fabrics are inside the pocket. But yeah, first side is kind of complete. I think it's looking fine. Okay, so I've done two edges. I've got this edge and I've got this edge, and I kind of sewed the edges together because there's like this, and I wanted to make sure that it wouldn't come up, so I extra sewed it right there. But two sides done, two more sides to go. This is my last little bit, guys. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. I think I finished it. All the white edges are completed. They're not perfect, but I think it is capable of actually being a blanket. Wow. There's the finished product, guys. There's the back side. Don't look at the little sideways, it's fine. So give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Comment down below what you guys got your mother for Mother's Day. And happy Mother's Day to all mothers out there. Subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on that bell notification so you're notified when we post every single Tuesday and occasionally on Fridays when we feel like it. This is KMCers, whatever, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.